Ingebrigtsen has run the fastest in Europe this year, 3:32.38, his only race. A win in Leuven. Closed very well. It was in the first heat yesterday that was slow, and ran 3:50. Just good enough to qualify, brought himself into third place. Simon Meslek of Italy is just inside of him. George Mills has been having a good season. Dean Habs and Arisi fancy their chances. This man's had a bronze medal twice at the European Indoor Championships. Jesus Gomez, injury ruined his 2022 outdoor season. Looked good in qualification. Neil Gourley is having the season of his life. Last outing was a British indoor record for this man, taking Josh Kerr's mark, 3:32.48. Michael Rosmus just inside him. Rosmus used to be very, very handy, but only when the races were slow, and he's built that fitness. He's lowered his personal best to the point where Michael Rosmus is handy in a fast race as well. Jesus Gomez spotting himself on the big screen. He was perhaps the happiest of the qualifiers yesterday, running himself back into shape after missing the whole outdoor season last year. Jakob Ingebrigtsen's got a good lane draw there on the outside. Neil Gourley's got off the line hard, giving himself the very best shot, trying to see what Jakob Ingebrigtsen's going to do. And there goes Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's not hanging around at all. Damiani of Belgium has got himself ahead of Neil Gourley. You can sense the panic there for Neil Gourley. And George Mills goes down. He takes down Osama Meslek. That's heartbreak for George Mills and Osama Meslek. George Mills doing everything he can to get back on this pace. Osama Meslek, unfortunately, has stepped aside. That was a serious injection of pace just after 100 metres into the race. And you could see when you've got someone that's the world indoor record holder, you take those moves so seriously, all pushing and shoving. Azzedine Habs getting himself into second place. They've just got to relax now, just got to settle down a tiny bit. And Jakob Ingebrigtsen only left them wondering for 100 metres, and now we know that he's feeling strong, and he thinks his best chance at taking his first gold medal here in Istanbul is to make this a hard race from the start.
Into the home straight.
And it's Ingebrigtsen still leading the way at the moment, looking imperial. Azzedine Habs, well, we were looking at him as a real contender for the medals. He's had a terrific indoor season, and Neil Gourley behind him at the moment as well. So they went through 500 metres in 71.73. Decent pace for indoor running. Championship record potentially could be under threat. Even Heshko's 3:36.70, which has been on the books since 2005 when we were in Madrid. And Ingebrigtsen just tearing the guts out of this field. Habs and Gourley doing the best to hang on. So too Gomez, the two-time former bronze medalist. At the moment, the rest of the field single file behind them.
And when you're running, when the race is picked up here, they're running at a very good pace. Given that the first 100 metres was today, you've got to be very alert to if there's any gaps. That's what Neil Gourley is doing right now. If you're going to try and beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen, you can't give him 1.5 meters. That means you have to be right behind him. So Neil Gourley making the decision there as we move up to the kilometre mark. He wanted to go past Azzedine Habs, and I don't think Habs would have let Neil Gourley do that if he could possibly avoid it, unless the Frenchman has just lost concentration ever so slightly. Great move from Jesus Gomez to get himself onto the back of this group. He's a double bronze medalist at this level, and he's starting to separate himself from Arisi and Luke McCann as they are behind. Jakob Ingebrigtsen still in the lead. That's slowed a tiny bit, 29.3. It's not crazy fast for these men in the 1500 metres. Jakob Ingebrigtsen just going to ease off ever so slightly to save himself a bit of a kick for the finish.
The championship record could definitely be still on, as it's Jakob Ingebrigtsen at the front, still ploughing away. As they come up to the bell, it's Jakob Ingebrigtsen, it's Norway, Britain and France, and they look like the men who are going to take the medals.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he's not quite kicked yet. He's going to wind it up, Neil Gourley has got a phenomenal change of pace. That's the first attempt for Neil Gourley. He hasn't managed to get past Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's going to have to try again in the straight. Neil Gourley working hard. Has Jakob Ingebrigtsen saved something? Surely he has. Here goes Neil Gourley. He's launching a charge. He cannot reel in the Olympic champion. Jakob Ingebrigtsen Ingebrigtsen had the title of favourite, but he was going to have a tough job here in Istanbul. A 26.87 final circuit. That's what's given Jakob Ingebrigtsen the win. It is a championship record. 3:33. George Mills trailing in here in 11th place. Heartbreaking fall for the British athlete in the first 100 metres or so. But they did everything they could and they came up short. Jakob Ingebrigtsen wins yet another European title. Half of the double succeeded here on the Friday night in Istanbul.
Well, I'm sure Jakob Ingebrigtsen will have watched that heat performance from Neil Gourley and thought to himself, I'm not going to be surprised again by Britain, however good he is, and a second major championship. Of course, Ingebrigtsen did manage to hold off the threat of the British at the European Championships outdoors, but it still lingers, that defeat to Jake Whiteman in Eugene at the World Championships.